Good morning. My name is Jessica, and I'm a curriculum specialist for Mountain Desert Career Pathways. MDCP works closely with our local school districts, community colleges, industry leaders to support career technical education in our community. On behalf of MDCP, I'd like to welcome each of you here today. Our staff has created this series so that our students can explore the local career opportunities and how they can better prepare themselves. We have a lot of exciting information to share with you today. On the screen now, you can see the MDCP's local career pathways in mechatronics. While we're waiting, if you would like to take a virtual drive through some of the many career opportunities in the mechatronics field, please do so. You can see through high school, post-secondary, associate, and bachelor's degrees, just to list a few of the career options in each of those categories, as well as the estimated salary ranges in our local community. This is our fourth portion of our virtual classroom presentation on Mechatronics series. It is my honor to introduce Mr. Dustin Strandberg from Victor Valley Transit Authority, where he is the fleet and facilities manager. Dustin comes to us with 15 years of experience in the transit industry. Thank you, Dustin. Take it away.
Let me unmute myself there. Thank you very much. As Jessica mentioned, I am Dustin Strandberg. I'm the Fleet and Facilities Manager at Victor Valley Transit Authority. I want to talk a little bit about who VVTA is. I'm not going to say Victor Valley Transit Authority the whole time. I'm just going to say VVTA. We're the transit agency up here, so we provide bus service to passengers for the Victor Valley area. We go all the way up to Fort Irwin and all the way down to San Bernardino. We are a joint powers, so we have a board that consists of the city of Victorville, Hesperia, Adelanto, and a few other places as well. But that's essentially what we do. And in order to provide service, the buses have to be repaired. So we have a maintenance department, and I'm the fleet and facilities manager of that. And so a couple of the career opportunities, I'm going to speak mostly about our maintenance department today. We have other departments. We have operations department, we have safeties, but I'm going to try to condense it down into maintenance. That way it's not going to be, 4 hours of me boring everybody. But I'm going to try to be a little bit quick in here, and then we're going to take a walk through our shop. Just kind of show you a couple of the buses, some of the equipment that we have, and then the differences between like an automotive part and a bus part. A lot of folks get a little intimidated when it comes to buses and bus parts, but essentially they're just bigger versions of cars. So, but a couple of things about career opportunities here in maintenance department. We have quite a few different positions here. So we have our technicians, which is kind of the meat and potatoes of our maintenance department. That's going to consist of, we have about 26 in total. And that's going to be ranging from that's going to be ranging from a C level to an A level. C level is going to be the lower entry level position, all the way up to an A level. So a little bit about the education paths that we like to see. Definitely people with automotive knowledge and training and experience. Experience is big, but we also understand, not everybody coming out of college, technical school, high school has that experience yet. But it is definitely a plus. So automotive, electrical is big, and actually some IT. So on some of these buses, I'll show you some of the equipment when we get out there. We have some local networking on these buses. So our APCs, which are automated passenger counters that go to our ITS. ITS means I keep thinking of Ron, ITS, it's throw me a bone here.
ITS what?
ITS on these technology systems.
Synchromatics?
Yeah. So
It's what?
what the heck does ITS mean?
Information technology?
Well, that's what I thought too, but I don't think it is.
It is.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll go with that then. Having a brain fart here. I keep thinking it's Friday too. But yeah, so we do have quite a few systems on the bus that aren't mechanically related. They're actually related to destination signs, to passenger counting, very computer-esque tablet type of things. That's some of the differences on there. So, but the future of our mechanics, we're looking at hybrid technology. We're looking at battery electric technology and hydrogen fuel cell. A lot of these things are fairly difficult to gain knowledge and experience in prior to becoming a mechanic at VVTA. However, it is the future of where we're going. So we also have our parts personnel. Some of the education paths on that are automotive. Obviously, they have to know the parts on these vehicles. Some business experience is very good, and knowledge, and shop management. Actually, the college does really well with a certificate of achievement with a service writing and shop management. So those types of things are a real plus when it comes to positions like the parts personnel, as well as our service advisors. We have 4 service advisors here. And those service advisors are basically assigning jobs to mechanics. They're dealing with paperwork because we like to keep mechanics working on buses. So we have them kind of taking care of the paperwork, and it's very, it's a fleet environment. So it's a little bit different than if you're at like Ford or, some sort of, automotive repair shop, because our customers are actually the buses. They're not reporting to a customer. And so they don't need too many approvals for, hey, we need to fix this and this. It's just something that needs to be done here. And so the service advisors generally take care of that, and they're the liaison between operations and maintenance. And so basically, if there's an issue on the road, they're the ones talking to dispatch, and then dispatching mechanic, or scheduling a switch out to get another bus out there in place of that bus that might be having an issue. We also have our maintenance administrator. We currently only have one right now, but obviously what they'll want to know education path-wise is business and some accounting, and definitely administrative paths. Automotive, definitely a plus. It's not generally required for maintenance administrator though. But we also have our maintenance supervisors. Currently we have 4, and we also have a maintenance trainer as well. The education paths for those definitely going to be the same as if you're going to a mechanic. So definitely automotive. ASCs are a plus, but these are obviously higher level, definitely not entry level, but those also require shop management skills and some business. You are operating a business, so a lot of people tend to forget that. And obviously, all of these require your soft skills. I'll definitely get to that at the end after we kind of go for a little walk out there. But soft skills are a huge for me. I think NBCP even quoted me on their PDF, but soft skills are very big to me. And then last but not least, we have our maintenance manager, and education paths kind of vary a little bit, but definitely automotive, you have to know what you're talking about and doing. Business, accounting, alternative fuels is definitely a big plus. That's where we're going. And a little bit into procurement. So procurement is purchasing of things and things like that. And I don't want to get too far ahead. Does anybody have any questions on the positions right now? No? Can everybody hear me? It's been pretty quiet, so.
I know it's hard to give the presentation virtually. Usually you feed off of the kids when you're in a classroom or they're there, but everyone's nodding their heads, and we don't have any questions as of yet, so you're doing wonderful.
Okay. Okay, excellent. And so some of the salary ranges. So it is a private company out there, because there's actually, it's a little bit strange. There's 2 businesses here. So there's Victor Valley Transit Authority, who I work for, and we contract another company in to do the actual maintenance and operations of the bus. Victor Valley Transit Authority oversees that contract. And so I don't want to, I'd like to just give more of industry averages versus what they're actually making out there, just to be fair. So our technicians are averaging in the industry between around on average $54,000 to $81,000 a year. That's includes CBA, all of the above. Parts personnel, we're seeing on average around 38,000 to 50,000. So that's your parts clerk. Obviously, there's managers at other locations. I was actually a parts manager here, which was a little bit different price range. Service advisors is something that's actually kind of new that we're doing in transit. We're trying to get out of the 1950s and get in with the times. I mean, obviously, Ford and all the other automotive industries is definitely well ahead of us. So we're trying to get up on par with them. And so, we're seeing on average right now, 38,000 to 46,000 a year for the service advisors. Maintenance administrators are around the same, maybe a little bit higher in some areas because of the accounting knowledge that they have to have with budgeting and things of that nature. And then when it comes to maintenance supervisors, you're looking at on average between about 65,000 and 91,000 a year. And then the maintenance managers, we're seeing between about 90,000 to 130,000. So career-wise in transit, it's definitely big. You can definitely make a very good living and a very good career out of transit. One of the things that I do want to talk about is how do you get into the transit industry? So one, definitely do what you're doing. These high school classes are great. I've heard a lot about what they do and what they offer, and this is a really good stepping stone. I love the things that MDCP, the Automotive Advisory Committee, and everything that everybody's doing right now is really good and definitely the right path if this is something that you want to get into. And the next step would be obviously their technical training, technical school, or the community college is a very good next step as well. Like I mentioned, the shop management certificate, all of the certificates that they have there, including the degree, are all really good steps to take to get into this industry. But to apply, so for VVTA, you just go to vvta.org, and it's a lot of people still joining, but you just go to vvta.org and you look at the careers, and that'll probably take you to our contractor, which is currently Keolis. If there are any VVTA careers, it's more than likely going to be on the administrative side. But for mechanics, it'll take you to our contractor. However, there's also a very good, you could go to Indeed, and there's a very good website called Transit Talent, and that'll list anywhere from a bus washer to a CEO of a company in the transit industry. So that's a really good one. I actually get emails on that every single day of people looking for jobs and people looking for personnel as well. So that's one of the best ways to find a job in the transit industry, or even come on down and see if we're hiring. Obviously, right now it's a little bit difficult time with the whole pandemic going on, but it is what it is. We're getting through it. We're doing what we can, right? And so we are open. We are providing full service right now. When the pandemic started, we reduced that greatly, but we are back up to full service with some exceptions to a couple of routes. So we're full force over here. We didn't see any slowdown in our maintenance department at all. So transit's looking good. What is the future looking like in fleet transportation? I missed that. Can somebody read that question off to me?
What is the future looking like in fleet transportation in accordance to zero emission standards?
Okay, so actually we have something that's called the Innovative Clean Transit Rule that's done by California Air Resources Board that basically mandates us that 100% of our fleet has to be zero emissions. And that's over 14,000 pounds gross vehicle weight. So the majority of our fleet, about 90%. There is no slideshow because we're going to be doing a little walkabout here. It's just kind of some narrative right now. I get kind of bored with slideshows, so I don't like to do them. Sorry about that. But getting back onto that, so the majority of our fleet is going to be zero emission buses. We're actually looking at hydrogen fuel cell. So currently we have 7 battery electric buses with 5 more on order. And The rest are probably more than likely going to be changing over to hydrogen fuel cell buses. I'll talk a little bit more on that when we go for a walk. Actually, let's just go for a walk. I don't really have
Question.
too much else to go over. Yes.
So on that note, just so that all the students have an idea of where they need to head in their post-secondary education, since there is this massive change from internal combustion to electric, what sort of training or certificates or things would the organization be looking for in a potential mechanic employee?
So electrical is the biggest plus right now. I know a lot of people like engines. Engines are great. Engines are awesome. However, that's going to be a very small portion of our fleet in the very near future. So electrical is a plus. It doesn't have to be super high voltage stuff, but I know schools are getting hybrids. Very good place to start. Schools are getting battery electric vehicles, cars. Excellent, excellent. So these are the types of things that we want to see out of them, because a hydrogen fuel cell is actually going to be very similar to our compressed natural gas buses with our battery electric buses. So high voltage, batteries, things of that nature. That's what we're looking at. Electrical. We have a lot of multiplex systems on our vehicles, on our buses, all electrical. High voltage electrical, PPE, things of that nature. If you know your PPE well, very critical. You
So
know
you're
how to.
looking-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're looking for students to be able to understand wiring diagrams, diagnosing
Yes.
electrical circuit problems, understanding communications between computers like bus networking and
All of the
multi-bus.
above.
Yeah.
Yes, all of the above. And that doesn't just go for our technicians either. I expect our parts personnel to be able to run through them, to understand diagrams, parts diagrams and schematics and wiring diagrams. Very similar to our service advisors as well. Obviously, there's going to be a range of knowledge and expertise with them, but I expect everybody to kind of understand the basics of every single one of them.
All right, students, if you want to change your view so that you have a larger view to Dustin, he's going to take us on a tour now, like a mini virtual field trip, so you could actually see what it looks like on the job.
Okay, so you'll see here, I'll go ahead and I'll start from bay one. So we have a couple buses being worked on right now. So we do everything in-house, from wiper blades to engine overhauls. Obviously, sometimes we do have to sublet some things out. It might get a little loud. I am in a shop, so some guys are trying to work right now, and I don't want to disturb them too much. But we'll go over a couple of things. So one of the main things right here, this is our battery electric bus. It's actually out of service. We're replacing one of these decals right here. But I'm sure some of you guys have seen this on the road. I think they did a pretty darn good job on that wrap there. But I actually asked for some PPE, but here's some of the PPE that we use for it. So we have over boots. We have what they call is a calorie rating. So we actually do a 12-calorie rating on the entire overall suit, the mask, everything, because they have to get up on the roof here. So you'll see a couple of things dangling down there and a couple lanyards. And so when they check out the batteries, we have a couple strings of batteries up at the top there. So they'll have to pop those open, check things out, make sure that everything's good, nothing's disconnected, all's well on our preventive maintenance. And so I'd like to show you a little bit about the back here. Most people are expecting engine and a lot of cool stuff, but really it's kind of boring. It's just this guy right here. So we have, these are 600 volt fuses right here. So they have to basically isolate the power, shut it off, full suit up, and then come over here and properly disconnect these in order to isolate the power away from some of the stuff that they're working on. So whenever you see orange wires like these, you definitely want to be cautious and steer clear away from them. But hopefully you guys are learning things of that nature when you go into talking about hybrids and stuff. and electric vehicles. So a little bit about these. I want to make sure that you kind of understand the differences between the battery electric buses and the compressed natural gas buses right here. Battery electric buses right now, we get about between 150 to 175 miles in range out of these. That's been our average. So 150 to 175 miles on average. And they take approximately 8 to 10 hours to charge on 50 kilowatts. So these are 466 kilowatt hour batteries. So when you start doing some basic math of dividing and timesing your multiplication and division, you can pretty much come up with, you know, if there's 380 kilowatt hours left on the state of charge, you're going to have, you know, X amount of hours at 50 kilowatts to charge these things. So it's all part of the planning. That's why some soft skills helps, but well, I guess that's more basic math than it is soft skills. But yeah, so take you a tour on one of the insides here. I'm not sure, has anybody been on one of our buses? We got Jessica. That's all I can really see though. So it's a little dark there, but these are 2018 buses. Actually, let me see if I can show you a little bit of some of the electrical up here too. It's a little bit dark. Sorry about this, guys, but
See it really good.
yeah, so here's a lot of the electrical, a lot of circuit breakers up here. So that's why it's so important to know, because this is the majority of the bus is these types of things. So a lot of the problems that we've had with these buses when we first received them was we got used to them being so quiet that we forgot that they were turned off. So we had a lot of complaints that people and drivers couldn't put it into gear, and that's because they had the bus off. I am the guilty party on that one myself. I did the exact same thing. I go out and I go, why are we having so many problems? I go to put it in gear and I go, man, I can't put this thing in gear. We got a problem. I was about ready to call it the manufacturer when I realized I didn't turn the bus on. So those might be some things that people run into, but I'm gonna go ahead and move on to one of our CNG buses. So this is actually an L9N. It's a Cummins 8.9 liter engine. This is actually a six-cylinder engine, and they call it the L9N. It's actually a near zero emission engine. And what that means is it puts out, I think it's 0.002 NOx. It's very, very near zero emission. And it's basically essentially like taking off, I think Cummins said it was around 1,000 1990 diesel buses. And so we actually utilize renewable natural gas. So we have a negative CI, which is carbon index. So we're actually, we're pretty much cleaning the air with these guys right here. But these are still unacceptable by California Air Resources Board standards. They are not considered zero emissions. So they're not going to cut it in the 2040 rule. So you can see here, that's the alternator, some pulleys. We have our radiator, and this is actually a charge air cooler. So radiator down here. I don't want to get too technical with you guys, but it's pretty cool stuff. A lot of people these are a lot of things that people haven't seen before, so.
That's awesome.
Okay. Cooling system over there. Okay, a couple accesses here. Now I'll take you guys inside. A bus is a bus. Horse is a horse, of course, of course. So basically, it's kind of all the same inside. But I do want to talk about a couple of these things. So this is where the IT comes into play. So we have our this is our tablet. So this basically is the CAD AVL. We call it computer aided dispatch. You're going to hear computer aided drafting, computer aided dispatch, things of that nature. And our industry is computer aided dispatch. So we actually use this. It's tied into our VoIP system. So that's voice over internet protocol. As far as I know, VVTA is one of the only, I think we're the only transit agency to actually get rid of our radio system and go to a VoIP system. We had a lot of problems at first, but that's to be expected when you're kind of paving the way here. So Even on our compressed natural gas systems, here's our multiplex area. So we have a couple multiplex modules. These are IO controls. These do a variety of things. One of these little fuses goes out or we have a problem. Your lights could go out. You could have all sorts of different issues with the bus. One of these breakers goes out, same thing. So it's all about diagnosing, reading wiring diagrams, understanding ladder logic, who, what, when, where, why, how on these electrical systems. So that's why, to me, I think that the future and the most important thing right now is electrical, because there's just so much on these vehicles that's electrical. Okay, obviously, for us, the difference is we also have air brake systems. So I'll show you, I actually have an engine out. Let's go ahead and take a look at that, and I'll show you the air compressor on that one. Kind of walk through here. So your question on how much more economically efficient is a battery electric bus to a compressed natural gas bus, can you be a little bit more specific, as in the cost of the bus, the cost of operation? Well, I guess I can answer both of those. So the cost of the bus is almost double. So an average compressed natural gas bus is going to be around a little bit over $500,000, whereas might see some eyes light up on these numbers, by the way. Whereas a battery electric bus, you're looking in the way of about $900,000. And also a hydrogen fuel cell bus is a little bit over $1 million. So it's extremely expensive to go zero emissions, but it's something that we have to do. We're mandated to do so. As far as cost of operation, right now we're seeing compressed natural gas to be a little over $1.30, so $1.30 a gas gallon equivalent. Whereas we're seeing battery electric to be about $1 a gas gallon equivalent. However, we're not currently receiving any demand charges. Yeah, $500,000 for a bus, over $500,000 for a bus. But yeah, so we're currently not receiving demand charges, and demand charges are your peak 15-minute period for a month. So for instance, if I used for 15 minutes, 450 kilowatts, that's going to be my demand charge. And they're typically between $16 to $36 per kilowatt. So basically times that by 450, and that's going to be my cost for the month on demand charges. So it's extremely expensive, and these are things that people don't quite think about. Sorry about that. I just hit puberty there, but they don't think about these things when looking at the actual cost of fuel. So this is, go ahead.
Justin, how long are you given to go to transition all the way to the zero emissions, to transition all your buses to that?
That's a good question, and it's 2040. However, we have to have a plan in place and submitted by 2023, which we pretty much already have our plan in place. Just needs some refinement. And I believe don't quote me on this because it's all jumping off of memory here. I believe it's by 2029 or 2030 that 100% of our bus purchases have to be zero emissions.
Wow.
So I believe starting 2023, it's about 25%, and then it kind of goes up from there until about 2030. And I believe that they have to be all zero emission purchases at 2030. Again, don't quote me. I might be wrong here. It's been a while since I actually looked at the rule. I've been a little bit busy. All I know is that by 2040, I've got to be zero emissions. So.
Wow, that's a huge cost.
Yeah, and so when it comes to these bigger buses, you have what's called the air brake system and air system. So air system generally operates the doors. It generally operates the brakes. And so when you talk about air compressors, a lot of people like to call this guy right here an air compressor. Well, this is actually our AC compressor. So I don't know if you've seen an AC compressor on your car, but it is not this big. This thing is massive. I mean, this whole engine's like a one-hander for me. I could pick it up no problem. But you know, most people aren't as buff as I am. I weigh 130 pounds, so I'm massive. I'm huge. But what we have down here is this is actually, it's going to be hard to get the camera into, but this is our air compressor right here. So this is what basically supplies the air to the entire air system. And so we have some storage tanks underneath the bus that basically supplies the air to the entire air system. So yep, so this is actually the size of one of these engines. So don't let the size fool you. An engine's an engine. So this guy right here, a couple differences. So of course you got your turbo. This is what's called the EGR cooler. So this is our EGR cooler right here. Obviously this is the whole mount cradle, all that good stuff. Here's the oil filter down here. So just kind of showing you guys a little bit, everybody, what the engine looks like outside of a bus. Some people might find it fascinating. Here's your starter down here. All sorts of good sensors here. Fun stuff, fun stuff.
Dustin, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You were talking about the costs, which kind of blew my mind. Are you subsidized at all by the state, federal, anything to get help with that?
Yeah, so actually, most of our funding is from LTF, which is local transit funds. We also receive federal fund. I'm going to talk to you guys. Let me swap my camera around here. So we receive LTF. We receive a variety of grants. So we have federal grants. We have local grants. The 5 battery electric buses that we have coming right now are going to be funded by some VW funds, as well as some local funds. I don't know if there's any federal in those, but yeah, we receive a variety of grants. What we do have to do is we have to try to meet the 20% fare box ratio. So we try to achieve that. Obviously, with the whole COVID-19, we actually went for a while because social distancing and those types of things, people weren't paying for about a month or two. Obviously, once we started taking revenue again, it wasn't free riding. It was just due to the social distancing, we couldn't accept those payments. But once we went back to accepting payments, people didn't like that too much. But hopefully that answers your question.
Dustin, behind you, I'm noticing some equipment, like
Yep.
I'm seeing like a wheel balancer hood maybe. Could you kind of show around some of the equipment that's used, similar to what we would be training them on? in our shop?
Absolutely. Yep, so let's go ahead and turn around here. So we have our wheel balancer right here. So this is definitely some of the equipment that I don't know about the high schools, but I'm sure you guys do. And I know that the college also teaches how to balance wheels. I know that the college also has some new equipment for removing tires and mounting, dismounting, things of that nature. Do the high schools as well?
Yeah, we have wheel balancers, tire dismount machines. Obviously,
On a smaller scale.
Yeah, smaller scale than that.
Maybe more like this size right here.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, so we do have a variety of things, because while we do have the big stuff, we also have the little stuff as well, because we have SUVs out there. This is what's called the cutaway bus. This is actually just a Ford E450. So underneath it, you're just going to find a Ford engine on a Ford chassis, but they call it a cutaway because we basically just put this big old beefy body on it to house passengers in here. But it's still a Ford chassis, Ford engine. So you see it right here, E450 Super Duty. This is compressed natural gas, so it has been changed over, so you can see it's green alternative systems. So this one is a Ford engine, but it is compressed natural gas. And so let me get into some of the other tools here. So obviously we have all of our drain. This is a filter crusher here. If you guys were actually on site, I'd probably let you crush a couple filters. It's more uneventful than you think it is. It's a lot slower, and But yeah, it crushes big filters down into, let's see if I can show you one. Just a little bit again.
Wow.
Okay, so we have a hydraulic press here, big old beefy hydraulic press, a couple bench grinders. Okay, we have our little drill press here. We also make some of our hoses as well. So we have hose crimping. I'm not sure if you guys are doing any of that in the schools. Yeah, so we have all sorts of different size hoses, some braided lines. So you got your braided lines, some with arrow quit fittings. Sorry about that. Okay, I'll take you guys for a little tour, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of the part differences as well. So obviously we've got our battery chargers, something that you should find everywhere. Oh, I got the compressor on in there, so it's gonna be really loud. So I won't take you into the oil room. Oh, nope, just shut up. Cool. Okay. So lube room here.
Dustin,
Some of our oils right here. We've got our 5W20 your oil. Oh, sorry, did I lose you guys?
yeah, you lost us a little bit in there.
Okay, yeah, I won't go back in there then. Sorry about that. I must have lost Wi-Fi there.
It's okay.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about, actually, this is where I really want to get to. So some of the parts differences, you've got your air filter on the Fords, air filter on a big bus. So essentially they're the same thing, but there is a size difference here. So oil filter, oil filter. This is actually the oil filter on a take 3 of everything. So alternator. So this is the size of an alternator you'll find probably on like a car, maybe a light duty truck or something. But this is the alternator on a big bus. I think these are about, I want to say 110 pounds. So yeah, I usually curl these, but you know, they got mad at me because I was doing 2 per hand. So a couple starter differences. So starter on a car. Actually, this is a E450 starter, and then starter on like a Cummins L9N. You might hear me say 8.9 liter L9N, as it's all synonymous. So a couple drive shaft parts here. So you got your universal joint on an F550. So versus a U-joint on a bus. So a little bit of a size difference there, but the reason why I do this is I want to make sure everybody understands, you know, it's just like a really big car. A lot of people get intimidated by a bus. Oh, I wouldn't know how to work on it. I wouldn't know what to do. You more than likely would, because everything's pretty close to the same here. So these are actually the brake shoes on a bus here versus a couple little pads on an F550. So a little bit of different size there. And then your calipers here, massive difference on these ones. Same thing with your rotors. It's probably hard to actually see the scale of it, but this rotor is really big, really massive. And then you got your brake drum. So that's a big difference between the two different things. But we work on all of it here. And so it's definitely, and almost every transit agency is going to be the same. We have different size buses, very wide variety of vehicles within our fleet. So a couple different things in here. I know I didn't talk too much on this, but a lot of things that we do a lot of welding. We do a lot of bracket fabricating. So those of you that are interested in welding and automotive, there is a place for you within the industry. So air conditioning, more welding. And then again, our parts cleaners, we have our janitorial. Oddly enough, you know, some people really like janitorial, so we provide good equipment. And then our parts washers as well. Okay. How are we doing on time?
We got about, I would say, teachers about 15 more minutes.
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and I'll head on back there. This is our maintenance manager and supervisor right here. You can see here, they actually post some of our ASC Master Certified folks up here. So it's something that we're very proud of. We take our training and certifications very seriously.
Hey, Dustin, a question
yeah.
for you. Are you guys a 24-hour shop, or are you 8 to 5 or?
We're 24 hours here. Our Barstow location is not. Our Barstow location is actually 4 a.m. to 10 p.m., but our Hesperia location is 24 hours. Okay. So before I move on to some of the, talking about some of the soft skills, are there any other questions?
What are your average employees? Is it 410s? Is it 5/8? How does it work?
Yeah, we're currently at 5/8. Almost every single employee here is about 5/8. Although I'm a big fan of 410s, my director's sitting next to me, so hopefully he hears me say that.
All righty, we're going to ask a couple questions of the students. So if you guys could answer these in the chat, and we will get to those. So our first question is, name one of the careers listed on the local career pathways and mechatronics poster from earlier in the presentation. One career and the educational level needed for that career. Our next question is, on average, how many miles can the VVTA battery bus travel on a full charge? First students with the correct response will receive Starbucks cards. So we will continue on. Take it away, Dustin.
Okay, so talking a little bit about the essential skills and soft skills. I really want to emphasize these. These are very, very near and dear to my heart. When I started my transit career, I didn't have too much in the way of experience or knowledge, but I did have very good essential skills and soft skills. And so let's go ahead and just get into this. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so this one's gonna be collaboration. It's taking a little bit to load there, but I've got it printed as well. So basically participate fully, interact with each team and company member, consider who it is you're talking to, be professional. You know, I try to be extremely professional to every employee and every person here, from you know, janitors to the CEO. I try to treat everybody the same and with respect. We all deserve it. We're all here doing a job, and you know, we're all doing a darn good job. So I think it's very important to respect each other and treat each other very professionally. So work with other members of your team in a professional and productive manner. This one's always a fun one because we don't always like each other, and so. But we have to work with each other, you know, in a professional, productive manner, regardless of what we think of each other. Effective communication, what you say and how you look when you say it. Also listen carefully and speak in a coherent, professional manner. And what I like to tell people too is kind of have your story straight too before you start talking to me. So in this industry, if somebody comes in and they go, hey, look, I've got a problem with an engine. We're going to need to replace it. And I go, okay, well, what's the bus number? I go, I don't know. Okay, well, what's wrong with the engine? I don't know. It just needs to be replaced. Well, that's not really telling me anything. So that's not effective communication. And it might irritate me a little bit because now we've got to have multiple conversations about this because you don't have your story straight. And listen carefully. So that's one of the things that I find a lot is people tend to interrupt. And when folks interrupt, you can't get your point across very often. And it's very frustrating. So on to critical thinking.
Right.
So solve problems, including offering creative and innovative solutions and communicate those concepts effectively. Absolutely. And that's also with the communication and getting your full story as well. Think ahead, plan appropriately. I agree with every single one of these. And then think about what you're doing. Reflect on the processes and procedures. Make appropriate recommendations to improve them. Absolutely. I totally agree with every single one of these.
Okay.
Ethical behavior, respect yourself and others. Very, very, very important. Respect the company's property and image at all times, especially in transit. You know, our image is on the road. And so when that's why that the vehicle's out of service, it's missing half of its wrap that you guys saw. That's definitely not something that I want on the road. We have an image, and so I'm very happy with our contractor that they're holding that out of service just for something as simple as a decal. But be aware of your digital footprint and how it affects you and your employer. What you post online will haunt you. Absolutely. I don't want to get too into. I've done some stupid stuff in the past that's still haunting me to this day. So you got to be careful there. I still do things that I shouldn't be doing. But getting into your work environment, follow all standard operating procedures. Actually, our current contractor has a ton of standard operating procedures. As a manager, I love SOPs. You're going to hear that a lot in a professional environment. They're going to be called SOPs, rules, regulations, safety. Very big on these things. Be able to work under pressure, absolutely, especially if we're getting into a bind. I like to put some of these into the situation that we have here and transit. Sometimes we are under pressure. We're going to get buses up and running. All of these are just fantastic. Has anybody actually downloaded and read through the PDF?
Dustin, some of our schools, for those of you guys that are looking for this, it's on our MDCP website, and we will be forwarding this out after this presentation, but also some of the districts are going to roll it out in their own fashion soon and
Okay.
really go through it. So you're the first presenter on it. So thank you.
Oh, awesome. Oh, okay. All right. Well, then I was thinking we were kind of going over it and summarizing, but no, this is
Definitely.
This is all good stuff. Sure. So work ethic. This is probably one of the biggest things. Be dependable. Make sure you come to work. Make sure you're on time. Make sure you're prepared to work and do what you need to do, regardless of what business you're in. That's just something that's really going to set you apart from people. Manage your time and tasks properly. Truthfully, this is going to set you apart from the rest. These types of things is what everybody is looking for, regardless of, I mean, obviously your skills, knowledge, experience, certifications, things like that are all taken into account, but so is your work ethic, especially during interviews and especially during the first couple of weeks as well. Take ownership, take responsibility in your work and do it with pride. Absolutely agree with this. It's very important that you don't try to pawn things off onto other folks. Understand that if you made a mistake, learn from your mistake and take responsibility for it. However, if you take ownership in what you're doing, you'll do it really well. Demonstrate leadership always and have pride in your work. Your employer's brand and product. Absolutely. All of these I completely agree with. So
thank you so much, Dustin. So to answer the two questions, we had some wonderful answers, but a student privately messaged electrical and mechanical engineers with bachelor's degrees that follow on the roadmap wonderfully. They also several students answered correctly that your electrical bus can go 150 to 175 miles. The next question is, if you can type in the chat, name one of the essential skills that demonstrates character, integrity, and honesty. With that, Dustin, Ivana, thank you so much. We've had tons of questions, but we're running late. So we have Dustin's email below. So if you guys would like to take that down now, we'll also send it out in a follow-up email if you have any further questions or needs that you would like to forward on to Dustin. Your virtual tour with us today, and we hope all our students got some really good information that reinforces what our teachers are doing in the classroom and virtually. So thank you very much, Dustin.